In 2008, we were part of an educational revolution. Suddenly, all our Stage 5 students were to have personalised computing devices, and this was to transform learning and teaching at All Saints Catholic Boys College forever. As teachers, we were supported in this transformative process with the timely release of the Catholic Education Office iLearn model.
All staff at All Saints Catholic Boys College have been involved in ongoing professional development around the iLearn model to help prepare them to best utilise technology within the classroom. This professional development has greatly assisted us in incorporating e-learning into the All Saints community.
2011 has seen the one-to-one program expanded to include our Year 7 students. These boys associate high school with the ubiquitous use of technology in the classroom. Our challenge in science is to provide a structure to ensure the curriculum outcomes are met, whilst allowing freedom for the boys to engage in the learning process by making them responsible for producing final work samples based on the content and skills learnt.
The aim of the 2011 iLearn project was to create engaging student learning spaces with a strong focus on communicating and collaborating, being creative and introducing students to multimodal literacy techniques. We have seen through this a shift in style from teachers providing content to students being able to create and manage the content themselves.
Greg has been teaching for a number of years. He is currently the science coordinator at All Saints Boys. Greg is very familiar with the Stage 4 science syllabus. His Year 7 class was mixed ability and, as typical of our college, has a high Labote background.
Danielle is a relatively new teacher, currently in her 3rd year. She has taught the Year 7 syllabus previously. Danielle had the top Year 7 class this year. This class had no behavioural concerns, although most come from an ESL background.
I had two main focuses that I wanted to achieve with my Year 7 class using the iLearn model. First of all, I wanted students to produce an instructional video using iMovie, and secondly, for them to collaborate and devise new ways of revising content for exams. In terms of iMovie, I wanted the students to create a video that would allow the average person to replicate making a wet mount slide and using a compound microscope. The ability to provide instructions for others to replicate a task is paramount in science because it is part of the methodology process in scientific report writing. Students were given a set time period in which they needed to write scripts and storyboards for their movies. This meant that students needed to be familiar with the scientific content and terminology of the topic prior to making their movies. It also encouraged the students to provide clear and concise instructions. From here, they started to film. The filming process probably took the longest amount of time during this task, as students worked out the best angles to use and ways to use the webcam feature. The boys wanted to put the actual images that they could see through the microscope into their movies, but did not know how. One boy discovered that if you use a mobile phone to take a picture through the eyepiece of the microscope, that you get a very clear image. Lastly, students were given the opportunity to edit what they had filmed. This involved the students editing film clips, adding music and text to their movies. During the editing process, students not only worked together within their project groups, but worked together as a class to assist each other with the finer details of the iMovie. Using Google Docs as a collaborative tool to assist student revision involved a more structured process, as the students needed to be taught about Google Docs and also to establish accounts prior to their use. For this task, students worked in pairs to create revision quizzes that could be used by all class members to revise. Students made their quizzes available to the class through our wiki. During this task, students struggled to understand the concept of sharing a document so that both members of the pair had access to editing rights. As a result, it needed to be shown to the students multiple times and them constantly encouraged to utilise the share concept and implement it into their work. Once the quizzes were made using Google Docs, students uploaded their quizzes to the class wiki. Student progress with the quizzes was tracked through the establishment of correct answers by the creators of the quiz. The students also allowed me to view their original quizzes and answers to better monitor class participation in this activity.
I embraced the concept of personalised learning with my mixed ability class. To me, personalised learning is allowing students to learn in a manner and pace that best suits them. From my past experience, I know this requires a lot of support from their teacher. Structure was needed for the boys to follow. This came in the form of creating a long list of engaging resources, including a list of the required unit outcomes that the students could always go to on the class wiki. It also became clear that I wanted to target and enhance the students' communication skills, both written and verbal. I allowed the students to form their own groups and warned against just simply choosing your friends. I explained to them that they had 5 weeks to basically learn the unit outcomes and provide evidence of their learning using the technology of their choice. An assessment rubric was created to evaluate how effectively concepts were covered using ICT. Effective group work also formed part of the marking criteria, as well as how well students were able to collate, manage and present their projects. My duty now was to facilitate and monitor each group. A few groups and individuals within the groups went beyond my expectations. One student facilitated his own group and was very creative in setting up a group wiki, in his own time, including the holidays. Another group was able to enter iMovie footage into the 60-second science competition. I think it is important to take some risk. I was very hesitant at the start, but I'm glad I took the so-called risk because I now trust the students much more, especially after the quality student-centred work that was produced. The standard and challenge is now set for next year's Year 7, and modelling will help students understand learning outcomes and expectations. One of the great things that occurred was the reflection upon and sharing of pedagogies and technologies amongst the staff. The most successful of these have now been incorporated into our teaching programs. We now realise that time-consuming planning can pay off in the long run. Students' learning and way of learning has improved as a result. This is also due to structures being in place to allow student learning freedom. Things like outcomes, time frame, examples to see, resource availability, assessment rubric, and teacher facilitation for some content concepts. Both the students and the staff enjoyed the experience of learning together.
Having the top Year 7 class meant that I could briefly show the students what I wanted from them and provided them with a detailed set of expectations that allow them to have free run on their projects. Throughout these tasks, I was merely a facilitator, ensuring that all students remained engaged and on task with their projects. I was able to help students when needed, but found that students often asked one another for assistance with the technology and only came to me to clarify content and knowledge. I feel that these tasks have allowed students to better understand the cell's content, particularly the use of microscopes. In terms of replicating the same tasks next year, it would definitely depend on the students, but I feel that it is very achievable. The biggest changes I would need to make would be to provide greater structure and guidance, especially for the mixed or lower ability classes. Next year, I would like to take the Google Docs further as a collaborative study tool by implementing it at the start of the year and not just using it for quizzes, but utilising it for all study and perhaps even as a class workbook. I would also like to incorporate more of the tasks used by Greg and Matt in their classes to develop consistency across the program and provide students with a wider range of creative, communicative and technological skills to enhance their learning and use of laptops. Overall, I feel that the students were responsive to the activities implemented in this program and that it provided them with regular hands-on tasks which they enjoyed and wanted to be involved in.
It has made a different perspective to learning.
Social in a way, and just ordinary textbook work because they're more interactive and more enjoyable. Students more eager to do work.
Brings a more fun way to learn.